Welcome to the Everything Embodiment podcast, where I will help you find peace, understanding, and love all within your human body, enhancing your mind-body connection through the exploration of vast ideas, concepts, and modalities, discussions all meant to propel you along your own unique spiritual journey. I'm your host, Amber Miller. Welcome back to Everything Embodiment. I'm your host, Amber Miller. Today, we have a truly fascinating and heartwarming topic: pet mediumship. If you've ever wondered whether our beloved animals continue their journey beyond this life, or if you felt a deep, unexplainable connection with a pet who has passed, you won't want to miss this conversation. Today I'm joined by Mary Middlestead. You might know her on social media as Mary Kathleen. She's a gifted evidential medium with a special connection to the spirit world of animals. She has helped countless people reconnect with their pets on the other side, bringing through validations, messages, and deep healing. In this episode, we'll explore how animals communicate from beyond, the signs they send us, and the profound lessons they teach us about unconditional love and soul connections. So whether you're a devoted pet parent, curious about the afterlife, or simply love heartwarming stories of connection, get ready for an insightful and uplifting conversation. How are you doing today? Thank you for joining us.
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
I just wanted to share, Mary was my first mediumship development coach. I was very much still spiritually in the closet, and I had my big explosive spiritual awakening right before I got pregnant with my son. I was after a miscarriage before my son. And so I was just like nervous about everything and hiding it. And I just remember my son was a newborn because I was scared to do any sort of development while I was pregnant with him because I just didn't know how energy worked. I didn't want to screw up the pregnancy. So anyway, he was a newborn and you were doing a development class and you let me watch the videos and participate. Like in the middle of the night, I was doing them. So you're a very special person on my journey, and I'm excited to connect and share you with the listeners today. How did you first discover your ability to connect with spirits?
Well, before it leaves my mind, I just want to say I have this like core memory of you being super excited because I remember sending out photos of my deceased family members, and one of them was my uncle who passed very
Oh, I have
young.
full body
In
chills right now. I
in
got
the he passed in 1960, and I remember you doing a reading on his photo. And you got some like key details of his life. And I remember when I responded back and I, confirmed what you'd received, you being super excited. I think that was one of maybe your first like evidential
Oh, it absolutely was.
connections way back then.
Yes. I'm so
I think you got like a James Dean connection or something like that
yeah,
with him, which
absolutely.
I remember that. That was a long time ago.
That's so cool. My son is
It
about
feels
to
like a
be
long time ago.
4, so it was a long time ago.
Yeah. When I first realized I had abilities, well, looking back on it, I think I was connecting my entire life, even as a child, and having what I consider to be, spooky experiences with what I consider to be ghosts my entire life, and experiencing hauntings and thinking my homes were haunted and all that good stuff, which now I understand is not the case or was not the case. I don't believe in haunted houses. I don't believe in what traditionally is thought of as ghosts and all that. I was just having spiritual experiences and placing them in a fear-based lens from little on.
Easy to do when you don't know what's going on.
Yeah. And then in 2015, I left my career. It wasn't a midlife crisis. It wasn't an early life crisis. It was some sort of pre-spiritual awakening where I just walked away from it all and left my job behind. And I was going through something. And I feel like that was all meant to be because this was all meant to come into my life. And a couple months after that, my friend passed away. He started poking me and poking me and poking me from the other side. I call him my pusher. I feel like most professional mediums had somebody who was very much a pusher from the other side, somebody in their family, a loved one, an acquaintance, a friend who passed either around their spiritual awakening or even before they were born and just was very adamant that you need to do this. And he was mine. He sort of was very pushy, and I thought I was maybe a little bit crazy, and I told him in my head, I'm like, you need to leave me alone. Like, leave me the heck alone. So he did for about 6 months or so, and then he started up again. And his communications would align with things literally happening in my objective reality. So he would communicate with me, and then my phone would go off doing something it wasn't supposed to be doing, or a clock would go off when it wasn't supposed to go off, like instantaneously,
I
the same
love
time that
that.
it would be in my head. So I started to realize, okay, this isn't me being crazy. At that point, I said to him, you want me to do this? You need to help me. And things just really started snowballing and picking up traction. I took a photo of my son and I saw a spirit boy in it with my son, and I started dreaming of mediumship every night. And at that point, I got on Facebook and typed in mediumship development, and I started hopping in the groups and going to circles and developing. All of which would not have been possible if I had not left my job. If I had not left my job, I would have just been trucking away and trucking away and trucking away, and I wouldn't have had the headspace, right? So it's all connected, I feel like. It all
Absolutely.
started with listening to my soul to leave my job,
Oh, I
is my
love,
thought.
yes, absolutely. I love that. My next question is because of something you just said. I love how you understand traditional ghosts. Can you explain? I remember you said it had something like a thumbprint of energy almost. Can you explain how you would explain ghosts in a non-fear based understanding?
So if somebody's living in a house that they think is haunted, I think that there's several different explanations they can place around it. It's not always just one situation happening. One example would be you're experiencing what you perceive to be hauntings. It can actually be you're just experiencing residual energy of people who used to live in the home. Say that people used to live there and they used to engage in the same repetitive actions over and over and over. Obviously, people who used to live in the home you're in used to walk down the hallway all the time,
Hmm.
right? So maybe a man lived there who had really strong energy, really what we would call zingy energy and mediumship. His energy might still be left in the home. And you might be seeing him, hearing him, feeling him. It just might be how you're translating the residual energy left behind from when he was physically in that space. But when you're seeing him, hearing him, feeling him, it's not his soul, it's just the energy left behind by him. Something else that can be happening is, say, something traumatic happened in the home. Unfortunately, domestic abuse, which is all too common in multiple societies.
Hmm.
Maybe that occurred in the home. Maybe a divorce with a ton of fighting occurred in the home. Maybe a family that just had dynamics that were not healthy lived in the home at one point, and there was a lot of turmoil. You can be, especially if you're a sensitive, empathic person, picking up on that energy from in that space and bringing it in. And if you're not sure how to interpret that, how to translate that, you can be filtering that through a fear-based lens and, oh, ghosts. And the reason that we do that is because we've watched movies. We've been taught as children that if we are sensing something fearful that we cannot see, it must be ghosts, it must be the devil, it must be demons, all that good stuff. Then there's a loop that occurs when we feel scared. We throw out our own fear, and our own energy is very, very strong. We can actually create our own hauntings. So that's another aspect here. We are strong enough to create even things to manifest and move. And this
Yeah.
sounds crazy to people, but we could throw open our own cupboard doors. I think it's The Shining. Was it The Shining? Or was it Amityville Horror where they did this? Which I know those are movies where there was a lot of turmoil.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. We were just talking about The Shining at work too the other day.
Yeah, that fear and a lot of fighting and a lot of like energy can create basically what you perceive as hauntings from the outside, but it's
Yeah.
actually coming from your own energy. We are really, really strong
I
as
love the
beings.
acknowledgement of how powerful we are and how powerful our energy is.
Yeah, why are we giving our power away to external sources and acknowledging how strong we perceive them to be, but then not valuing our own strength? People don't stop to think logically about this. So,
Yeah.
right, we're the exact same as they are. We just happen to currently be in a body. So if it's
Yeah.
all energy, it literally is all energy.
Uh,
And the other aspect, just and I'll tie this up, is when we transition and we pass, we shed our human ego, right? So
Yes.
the human ego is tied to the human psyche. With the human ego is the, anger, greed, hate, if you want to call it that, all those things that would conceptually drive another soul to want to haunt, quote
Right.
unquote haunt, right? So after physical death, there is literally no need for a soul to want to create a haunting or to want to be tied to a physical home, a physical space. There is no desire to be, oh, he doesn't want to leave this house, so he's haunting it. There is no logic there behind the premise of hauntings whatsoever.
I love your perspective. I think it's really helpful, and I think it's really helpful to work through the fear. There's so much fear-based
Yeah.
ideology with anything mediumship spiritual, I feel like, and it's just preventing us from our own power.
There's even additional explanations, but I know we have other things to talk about.
I know that you are an amazing evidential medium. You've read me, my husband, my mom, and my friends. I've referred everyone to you because I just think you're so great. Many people think of mediumship as connecting with human spirits, but I see lately you have been talking about connecting with animal spirits. How did you come into that?
So, animals always came into my readings since
Okay.
I've been doing this, but they would come into my readings traditionally. They would just kind of pop in for a part of the reading, so maybe 10 minutes of it. Grandma would bring in the client's dog or a
Yeah.
family member's cat or whatnot. And then in 2021, I lost my cat at the time, and a series of events unfolded with his passing, directly after his passing, that made it pretty, and it was a big indicator that I was supposed to delve deeper into animal mediumship and animal communication as a modality of its own
Hmm.
and sort of separate the two out. So it's not that animals don't still come into my human mediumship readings, they do, but I also began to study animal mediumship and animal communication as its own modality so I could go deeper with animals. My cat Sniper, when he passed, he just was so amazing with his communications post passing. And my dog, who was still living at the time, was really amazing pre-Sniper's passing with an experience he gave me. And it just all came together synchronistically that I needed to study. So I developed that area deeper.
I really, I just love how in tune you are with your intuition and the guidance that you're receiving and that you follow it and take action on it. Do you believe, I believe that we choose our spiritual family before we are incarnated. Do you share those beliefs that we kind of choose who, our kids could be, or, I believe there are potentials based on where we are in the lessons we want to learn, but I'm just wondering if you share that belief because my next question followed up is, do you believe that we pick our pets before we incarnate?
I do. I think that we travel through, I mean, do you believe in reincarnation?
Yes, I do.
So I believe that we travel through lifetimes with the same group
Yeah.
of souls, and we ebb and flow in different roles, sometimes a bit more removed from one another. So I don't feel our mom or dad or sister or brother, like we're always super, super close to one another. Maybe at some point our pet was our brother's best friend or something,
Yeah.
but I do feel like we all choose to be in each other's lives time after
Yeah.
time after time. Yeah. I do.
Sharing a personal experience. I had a cat that I got as a kid. It was like my first pet. And then she lived a long time and I moved across, the country with her. And so she was already pretty old. And then I adopted my dog when I was probably like 21, 22. And this cat I had gotten in fourth grade, right? So age difference between them. But when I got the two of them together, it was such a bond. And they, as unique individuals themselves, I feel like got me through probably hopefully, the hardest period of my life. And I just know that I'm like even alive today because of them. And I just have this real resonance that, I picked for them to come on my path for that reason, almost as like a companion. So I was just wondering if you believed in the the power of those kind of relationships, they can be as profound or if not more than, different humans in our lives.
that they knew each other.
Well, not even that they knew each other, but that like I picked them for such an important role. And it was, I mean, they could have been my best friends at that time in my life. They were that important to me. So I just have a big resonance that we could pick our animals or plan for them as a support as significant as the way like a friend could support you.
I
Or
feel though as well, a lot of people think of our animal as though they're only here for us, like we only take from them, but it's actually a mutual relationship. We forget how much we also give them.
yeah.
And it's not just like, oh, food and water, it's way more than that. It's a mutually beneficial soul relationship. There's always something or some things that they are coming into this lifetime taking from us as well. So in your example, the cat and the dog, they were here for you and you credit being alive today as a result of them, but they also had a basis for coming into this incarnation in terms of taking something from you as well.
I love
It's
that. I haven't really thought about it that way, so I appreciate that. Back to animal mediumship with animals. Does communicating with animals differ from communicating with human spirits?
logistically, it's exactly the same. The only difference for me and for the majority of animal mediums I know, I don't think I know of any who don't work this way, is that with animals, I do ask clients for a photo ahead of time. And the reason is that there's so many different breeds and types of animals, and with clairvoyance and how the way that it works is so the energy comes into my head, and then my memory bank is quick. It's like a filing cabinet, right? My human brain needs to take the energy and pull up, okay, I need a match, I need a match, I need a match, I need a match. And if I've never seen the exact animal with my physical eyes, it's going to pull up the closest thing that it resembles. And with dogs that have like 10 types in them, sometimes the coloring is so unique, or I won't be able to tell them, okay, you have a dog that has this coloring here, this coloring here, this coloring here, this coloring here, because I've never seen it, right?
Yeah.
Or a cat like that, I've never seen it. So it's just much easier rather than to kind of stumble around for 5 minutes with the clairvoyance, just to go in with a photo. Then you don't waste time and you can
You
get right into
actually
all the other evidence.
That is actually helpful for something with me. I was doing not even a mediumship session. I was doing like kind of an Akashic thing. And then this dog popped in and I was trying to describe the dog and she didn't think that it made sense. She couldn't place it. So we just moved on. And later, like through kind of like you, I was led on this like experience of events that I just followed intuitively. And then I saw randomly this big white dog. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the dog I was talking about. So I took a picture of it, texted it to her, and she was like, oh, I know that dog. Okay, I know who you're talking about. And then she sent me a picture of her dog, and it was like an exact match. And I actually had sat with that. I'm like, I wonder why the dog I was seeing in my mind, I was seeing just white, shaggy dog. And then the dog that ended up being, I don't even know the breed, but it didn't look exactly like it, but you saying how my human mind just was attaching to something that I knew.
Yeah.
It's a lot of,
So there could be a dog that's almost all black. Say it's like 90% black and 10% white. My the energy will be almost all black, right?
yeah.
So my brain is gonna pull up a dog. I might think it's a black lab or something, or whatever other breeds are almost all black. But if you don't word it exactly right, the client wants you to describe exactly what their dog looks
Yes.
like. But the energy comes in and our brains, I always relate it to the card catalog at the library that they don't have
Mhm.
anymore, that they had when we were little. And our brains are like going, 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 going. And if we can't find the exact book, we just have to settle for the closest one. That's
Yeah.
how clairvoyance works. And with animals, it's not worth spending all that time on it when there's so much other evidence and so much other information that you can spend a reading on. There was a time where I downloaded a dog app because there's apps out there where you can like study dog breeds, and there's so many crazy breeds out there like that you can't even pronounce. And I started doing these little quiz games on it. I'm like, I don't have time for this. I can't study I'm never going to remember these dog
Right,
breeds that are 10 syllables or something.
right.
I'm like, I can't do that. And every other medium I know does pictures as well with animals. It just makes more sense.
I love that. And you can get to more important evidence,
Yeah.
once you get past that part.
Yeah.
Speaking of evidence, so animals, they can share detailed messages, emotions,
Mhm.
memories with their owners.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything else is totally the same between animals and humans. So the clairvoyance in terms of like showing objects, acting things out with Pictionary charades type situations, all the same. Clairaudience, again, it's all energy, so the energy comes in and is translated to words as messages, even though the animals obviously didn't speak when they were here. It's all energy, so there will be words in animal readings, clairsentience, all the same. It's exactly the same with the exception of a photo.
That's so cool. I'm sure you have, but have you ever had, a message or evidence that just really surprised their owner?
I don't know if I've had messages that were surprising, but the personalities and the way that readings go or the evidence they bring in is just really unique sometimes.
I love
And
that.
working with the different types of animals and what they bring in is just really fun sometimes. Like I worked with a woman's bird a couple of weeks ago, and the bird was it was like she ran the house. And this woman had a couple different birds, and as it turned out, the bird that I was reading, like, she didn't get along with one of the other birds. And the woman was asking, well, she already knew that, but the bird brought it up, and she validated that. She's like, yeah, they don't get along, and she's like, well, what can I help? What can I do to help her feel better about this other bird that she doesn't like? And the bird I was working with showed me a bedroom door and closing it. And
Mhm.
I told her that. And then I heard the words, shut the door. And the woman, she started laughing and she said, well, right now I have the other bird in a separate bedroom, like in a separate room. So what can I do to help her? She's saying, shut
Uh-huh.
the door on the other bird. So I just don't have to see it when we're here. Was the other bird's answer. So, because it was a living bird, I should have prefaced that.
Yeah,
The bird's a living.
so you
Yeah.
can connect with their higher selves then. And
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
you helped? I'm just curious, have you helped with do people come to you with like behavior issues or?
Sometimes, yeah.
Hmm.
Most of the time it's with living animals, it's like what's our soul connection? What's our purpose in this lifetime? That sort of reference. And it's more so animal mediumship is
Uh-huh.
what I do most,
Okay.
but I do living animal readings.
I love that one bird wanted its door shut.
Yeah.
So I know that you're a teacher. Do you believe that anyone can develop the ability to communicate with spirits, like either human or animal? Or do you believe it's a natural born gift and there's only chosen ones?
I believe that everybody has the ability to communicate with the spirit realm, but I don't believe that everybody is necessarily meant to get to the point of working with the public.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Everybody can paint, everybody can draw, but not everybody's going to sell their artwork.
Yeah,
Is
definitely.
is
Some people just have,
what I liken it to.
yeah.
And to that end, everybody who does work with the public, some people will get there quicker, some people will take longer. We all have the raw materials, we all have a soul, we all have a brain, we all have a third eye, we all have a mouth to speak. So everybody can do this, everybody can get there, especially with their own loved ones. Absolutely with their own loved ones. But training takes longer for some people. And some people will hit a ceiling where they won't progress past in terms of reading for other people.
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I think when I was taking that course with you, there was someone in there who was like a client and they wanted to develop abilities so that they could communicate with a family member. So yeah, I think that's so empowering and ethical, to at some point to teach you how to do it on your own because like you said, we do all have it within us. You are really aware of the signs that you're getting. What are some of the signs that a spirit, either human or animal, could be trying to communicate? I know people see numbers and stuff, but I guess that probably isn't really an animal sign too much. But what are some signs that you are have heard of animals trying to communicate?
The most common ones I would say use electricity.
Oh,
Yeah, so lights, cell phones, clocks, music,
So
that's pretty
say
common.
you are a non-developing person, you lost a pet and there's a toy goes off in the playroom. What can they do? What advice do you have for them to confirm, like, is that toy just malfunctioning or was that a sign? What would you advise them?
Ask for it to be repeated
Yeah.
in a specific time frame. So you would close your eyes in that moment, or well, you don't have to close your eyes, but if you're new, it's easier. Close your eyes in that moment, slow your breathing, mentally visualize your pet and say, was that you? If that was you, can you repeat that in the next 2 hours and give them a time frame? Or if that was you, can you let me know in some other way? And that goes back to regarding common signs.
Mhm.
There's also money, like you said, numbers, money meaning coins,
Yeah.
numbers, electricity, music. Of course, animals are common. But rather than leaning into common signs, I teach people that it's best to work directly with your loved one, your animal, and ask them for a sign.
Okay.
So make it more unique or more personalized. And you can do that in two ways. You can either specify what sign you would like to receive with them, or you can ask them for what sign they are going to give you, and then keep your eyes out for that. And that tends to work the best, in my opinion, because then you're not second guessing.
Okay. How can pet owners strengthen their connection with their living or past pets on a spiritual level?
Talking to them
Okay.
is the best. Meditation, absolutely the best. I always, always, always recommend meditation to communicate with your pet. However, I guess I wouldn't recommend that as the number one just because I feel like I tell people that and a lot of people roll their eyes and they don't want to do it. But that is, which I feel like you probably agree, that is absolutely the best way to strengthen your relationship with your loved ones on the other side. Hands down, 10,000%.
And I was probably the person that rolled the eyes at first too.
And I
Until
feel
I
like
finally did it.
people view it as you need to sit up straight, cross your legs, the whole thing. You
Yeah.
don't. And like it needs to be this 20-minute thing. It doesn't. You can lay down on your couch or your bed, close your eyes for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's what it needs to be. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, that is so important that you said that because I think a lot of people, it just feels daunting and that it has to be this like ritualistic thing and an idealistic situation. Like it has to be quiet. And I mean, it should, but not like that. And that's not what I meant. But like, yeah, if there's any time you can just take a minute to quiet your mind, that's all you need.
Absolutely. It is so much easier to forge a relationship with your pet in spirit or your loved one in spirit during that 5 minutes than it is to talk to them while you're rushing around after the kids or, doing whatever when your monkey mind, as they call it, is in the foreground. It's not that you can't forge a relationship in those times, but when you are new to this, that is going to be much more difficult
Yeah.
versus those 5 minutes are going to be easier.
Yeah. If someone is grieving a pet, what are some ways that they can recognize signs from them? I guess before we get too deep in that question, I just when I'm in grief, thinking about, when I've lost pets, I feel like I might be too low to even notice. When you're in the thick of the grief, I guess it's hard to, for me anyway, I feel like it would be hard to notice a sign. Do you have any advice for working with your grief and being able to recognize a sign?
I feel like it goes back to that meditation again,
Yeah.
because when you go back to that meditation, you're literally blending with their energy consciously, and that's helping you to lift your vibration, even if your human mind is experiencing the grief, your soul's not experiencing the grief.
Oh, I like that.
And I mean, when Sniper passed, that was my cat. That was some of the worst grief I've experienced in my entire life. Like, even worse than humans, which is maybe some people think is horrible to say, but it was. And even worse than when my dog passed recently, which I was closer to my dog than I was to Sniper. When I meditated to blend with him in those first 24 hours, he brought in things that literally I could feel myself raise.
Okay. I love that.
And then during those meditations, even if you're not a very good meditator or an experienced meditator, sometimes you will receive things into your head that will not make sense.
Hmm.
And those are the things to then keep an eye for in your day-to-day life. And they know what they're doing,
Yeah.
and we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
So I recommend that meditation. It helps with the grief somewhat as best as it can.
Yeah.
And trusting that your soul and their soul are in charge, right? Leaning into that trust is what's important, and the signs will come as a secondary reaction to that.
The meditation, I feel like, can be just like a pause, to, I want to say disconnect, but it's a pause to connect. Disconnect from the grief and sadness. I remember we a couple years ago had to very unexpectedly, it was completely unexpectedly put our cat down, our family cat. And it's a different one from the cat I was talking about earlier. And my daughter was like 3 or 4 at the time. And she just looked at me almost like annoyed. We were at the vet and she's like, "Why are you crying so much?" And I was, "Oh, it's Skeeter." Her name was Skeeter. And I was like, "It's Skeeter's time to go to heaven." And I just wasn't ready. And my daughter, we don't, she's shown signs of being very open, but at the time, like we hadn't, she didn't really have an understanding of what heaven was or what that all meant. And she just looked at me and she's like, "Where she's going is so much better. Like, why are you sad about that?" And I was just like sobbing in the vet office and then like stopped in my tracks, like, wow, she just hit me with some wisdom there.
Yeah.
It is always hard,
And
but
they say the craziest things
I
sometimes.
know, I know your kids, you have kids that have said some things too, right?
Yeah.
With your pets.
Mhm.
Yeah. I know you are an instructor too. What advice would you give those who feel drawn to developing their mediumship or just their intuitive abilities?
I would recommend seeking out free guidance first, meaning social media, following people for a while, but you can only get so far with that.
Yeah.
And the reason that I also recommend that is that following teachers for a bit, getting a feel for what your intuition is telling you about each teacher and how they teach, what they're teaching is very important as well. And then using your discretion as to who you then decide to take the next steps with. So if you're feeling drawn to develop, you can do a bit for free online, but then I would look into getting into some paid courses after that with people that you're intuitively drawn to. I wouldn't recommend just seeking out teachers and clicking buy with the first one that pops up
Hmm.
necessarily.
Yeah.
So I recommend following a few and then going where your intuition leads you. This field has really, really exploded since COVID. I was in it prior to COVID, so I've seen both iterations, and there's some weird stuff out there,
Yeah.
uh, in my opinion. So that's why I say follow people for a while and then
Yeah.
kind of sift through with discretion and follow who you're intuitively guided to. Because you can
That's
be
right.
led down some wrong roads for a bit
Yeah. It's a
without
lot of
realizing
sand
it.
out there on social media.
Yeah. Yeah. You can be led down some odd roads for a while without realizing it. I mean, that's all part of your journey,
Yeah.
perhaps as well. But that's where I would recommend going. And then for sure, not just classes, but development circles and practice circles are a really big part of this as well. And you can find a lot of those on Facebook.
Yeah.
That's what I did. I don't know what the community over there is like now because I don't know what that's gotten
I
like.
definitely have utilized those Facebook groups myself.
Yeah, I don't know what they're like now, if they've gotten a little crazy or not.
Some of them, I feel like just ethically myself, you can tell they're in it for they're volunteering for the right reasons, I guess, and so some of the people like genuinely are just a good sport and just want to help. And, this, yes, you do get a free reading, but some of the people I feel like are like not in a healthy headspace and it's just not healthy by letting them constantly participate in free readings.
Yeah. Yeah, and what I'm getting at too is I know that there's some, and everybody has to develop their own belief system.
Yeah.
So just because I say something is a certain way or I believe things are a certain way doesn't mean that that's absolute truth. Everybody needs to believe what they want to believe, right?
Yeah.
But you can follow people online who are going to teach you to remove demons from people or
Yeah.
yeah, so that's why it's important to not just jump in with the first teacher that pops up on your feed. And that's why I say I don't know what the groups are like now on Facebook, because you don't want to end up in practice circles with people who are telling you you have some kind of
Entities attached
attachment
to
that
you.
doesn't
Yeah.
exist or something. You need to
Yeah.
be discretionary and always stay true to your own belief systems if you're planning to develop, is my advice. And go with a teacher who feels ethically and spiritually aligned with you.
Yeah. I think too, on social media and the free stuff, you just have to watch out if it's starting to, if it brings up fear. I think if they're using fear-based stuff, like how you said, like, oh, you have an entity attached to you, maybe just check in with yourself and see if that
Yeah, for
feels.
sure. For
All right, Mary, where can people find you if they want to work with you or book a session?
The best place to go is to my website, marykathleen.medium.com, or Instagram at medium_Mary Kathleen.
Okay.
Those are the two best ways to find me.
And then before we wrap up, I just want to talk about you have a journal available on your website and Amazon. Is that right?
Yeah, it's an automatic writing journal. It's to help those who are grieving work with their own loved ones on the other side.
I love that. And just personally, I will share automatic writing for me was therapy sessions. Like it just felt so good. And I really owe a lot of my development to what I received through automatic writing. So I would just recommend that guide for anyone. Through the guidance that I received in it, I healed so much without realizing that's what I was doing. Like looking back now, I know that that's what it was, but it just really allowed me to heal so much. So without like traditional therapy, I guess.
Mhm.
So definitely recommend that. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we close it out?
I guess just that I feel that this modality and learning to work with your own loved ones, not going down the road of mediumship development in terms of working with the public, but just learning to blend with the spirit realm for your own personal use. Whether you're grieving, have lost somebody, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever the case may be, an animal, a living person. It's just, it's life changing. And that's my largest passion, even more so than developing people into psychic mediums for the public, is teaching people how to work with spirit for their own people, for their own animals, because that is where ultimately I feel we're meant to rise in consciousness.
Yeah.
We're meant to rise our realm where we are now closer to spirit as a whole is my thought, so that we don't need to necessarily, we're always going to have grief, absolutely, but to realize that we don't always have to feel the degree of separation that we do. We may not be able to see them, but we can feel and talk to them more so than maybe we once realized, is really my passion, to help people realize and to do.
I love that so much. And I feel such a like resonance when you say that. And I've always just been drawn to and admired your like ethical standpoint on that and that we can all do this. We're meant to, we are meant to do hard things, but we're not meant to do it alone. And I
Right.
feel
Yes,
like
absolutely.
you really embody that with your approach to what you do. Thank you so much, Mary. I'm so grateful for this. It was great catching up. I will put all your information in the show notes for everyone to find you. And I'm just so grateful for you being on my path.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Amber. It's been an honor to talk to you.
I'm so grateful for that incredible conversation with Mary Kathleen. Her gift and insights into pet mediumship are truly heart opening, and I hope this episode brought you comfort, validation, and a deeper understanding of the soul connections we share with our animals, both in this life and beyond. If you feel called to work with Mary Kathleen, check out her website. It'll be in the show notes. As she said, she offers mediumship sessions to connect with your loved ones, both human and animal, but also teaches mediumship. And I have taken her class and can attest that she is patient, knowledgeable, ethical, in helping others develop their own intuitive gifts. And if you're ready to go even deeper into healing, intuition, and shifting subconscious patterns, I invite you to check out my Release Receive program. It's designed to help you release limiting beliefs, old energy, and emotional blocks so you can receive clarity, abundance, and alignment with your highest self. This is the perfect next step if you're feeling stuck and ready for real transformation. You can learn now by checking out everythingembodiment.com. Thank you so much for listening, for being part of this journey, and for trusting the magic that exists in the seen and unseen worlds. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, share it with someone who would love it. Until next time, stay open, stay embodied, and keep embracing the magic all around you.